When it comes to local real estate, the company of this morning's guest is a miracle. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at 1550 Oak Street, the Myrtle Beach branch of South Carolina Bank and Trust. We're focused on local real estate trends, and we're visiting with the president of the Cana Corporation, Randy Wallace. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for coming in early on a Thursday morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I don't get up early for everybody, but I got up for you.
I like it. Very nice. Well, particularly wearing a WF there on your, is that for Wallace Furniture or Foundation?
Wake Forest University.
Wake Forest. I love it. Yeah. You're a Demon Deacon.
I'm a diehard Demon Deacon fan.
Is that right? Do you get up to Winston-Salem much? Or?
Not too often, but I try to get up at least one football game, one basketball game every year.
Right.
A few visits.
Yeah. I'm sure they're contacting you on a regular basis. Come visit more, Randy, and do a couple more things. That's right.
They do like us to come up, all of us alumni to come up, but I love going up there. It's a great place.
Oh, yeah. Are you originally from the area, Randy?
I'm from Marion originally.
Oh, good.
Marion, South Carolina.
Absolutely. Do you still have family up there?
I have some family. I have an aunt who lives there and,
right.
and some distant relatives.
Yes. And you've been in the Myrtle Beach area a good while.
I moved here after college, after finishing at Wake Forest, and spent a few months in Marion, and then came down to the beach in 1977.
Is that right? A little more than 30 years now. Not to date you there, Randy.
Yeah. And started in real estate right back in 1977.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
Had you thought about that growing up, that you'd get into real estate?
No idea whatsoever.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. Studied English and religion in college and just ended up in real estate, just through some contacts.
Yeah, what was it about the real estate profession 31 years ago that would have tickled your fancy?
Well, it wasn't so much the real estate profession as my father was a cotton merchant for years and years in Marion, and Thompson Wallace Cotton Company in Marion, South Carolina. And they had offices all over, really all over the country. But and I tried to work with my father for a few months and decided I didn't like the cotton business. So then I had a friend of my father's who was doing some real estate development here at the beach, and he asked me to come help him out some, and I came down in 1977 and took a one-man. He was a one-man show, and then we had a two-man show, and learned from him, a gentleman named Joe Parks, and worked with him for a couple of years, and then started my own business after that.
I think I saw that you set up your first company at age 24.
Yeah, at 24, I decided to do it on my own, and so we started. I started Lightus Corporation.
Right.
Had my mother come in, and she was my part-time secretary for free.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't afford to pay her, so she came in and worked half a day every now and then.
She came in from Marion.
She came in. Well, she was living here at the time, so she'd
Good.
come in and help me and get things started, and worked for about a year or two by myself, and then brought in a partner, and we started growing. And anyway, it was a really exciting time back in the late 70s and early 80s, and real estate at Myrtle Beach was a really exciting time.
Oh yeah. What sticks out in your mind is really over that course, the early years of having exploded. Obviously, in the last 10 years and 15 years, we've seen a lot of explosion in the heart of Myrtle and up and down. But in the late 70s, early 80s, was there something that viewers who may not have been in the area at that time would take for granted as just been around a long time?
Well, it was really, again, like I say, it was an exciting time. We were growing, but it was a little slower growth, and people were just discovering that they could actually buy property at the beach and not just come vacation for a few days.
Right.
And we were building some condominiums and townhomes close to the beach at the time in Myrtle Beach, and it was really a time of discovery and exploration, a lot of creativity, and it was a time then also when the stack of shacks were discovered. We used to call them the stack of shacks.
Right.
The prefab condominiums on the beach, places like A Place at the Beach units that are like at Ocean Forest, A Place at the Beach, and some on Shore Drive, and that was the big discovery in the late 70s.
Sure.
And the prefab units, because you could put them up quickly, and they were small and affordable.
Right.
And we were selling condominiums on the beachfront for $59,900.
Is that right,
and
Randy?
2-bedroom, 2-bath condominiums on the oceanfront for $59,900, and people were buying them like hotcakes.
Left and right, yeah.
So it was an interesting time, and like I say, started creating some new type properties.
Sure.
At the time, patio homes were big then, and as well as condominiums on the golf courses. That's when really condominiums on the golf courses got started.
In the late 70s, early 80s?
Late 70s and early 80s. It really started taking off just then.
Right, right.
With the growth of the golf course business.
Sure, sure.
But it changed after that, but that was the cycle in the 70s and 80s.
And cycles are common.
Cycles are common, and of course we're living in that now, and a lot of people don't realize that that's all we're going through is a business cycle. We had it in the 70s. It slowed down in the early 80s with high interest rates.
Right.
A lot of people remember that. Interest rates jumped up to 18% interest.
Oh, come on, Randy. Is that right?
And
in the early 80s?
In the early 80s. We would hustle to get someone closed on one of these oceanfront condominiums we sold. We'd get a closing package, and we would get in the car and drive, or get on a plane and fly up to like Greenville, South Carolina, to go to somebody's office, get them to sign the papers, race back, get to the courthouse before 5 o'clock to record their closing statement and their closing documents, so that their interest rate would be at 14% instead of 16% the next day. So it would.
Wow.
Rates were jumping high, but people were still buying.
Right.
Because they were good prices. They knew that that cycle of high interest rates wouldn't last, and it didn't. A couple of years later, everything came back down, and people refinanced.
Sure.
But that was a time that slowed down business a little bit, obviously, with that high interest rate.
Yeah.
The late 80s obviously slowed down with tax reform, and that slowed our business a good bit for several years, and the oversupply that resulted then. And what we're seeing right now is very similar to that. It's a time of oversupply because everybody was building and buying and trading and a few years ago, and now we're just absorbing that inventory.
So, having lived through a similar cycle back in the early to mid, even late 80s, and seeing an oversupply, and obviously that having cycled through, if you had a crystal ball kind of looking into the next, you've obviously looked backwards over the last couple of years, but looking forward a couple of years, do you have some feel as to, will it be a similar just recycling of that oversupply? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, right now, so many people started buying. If you look at the trends, from 2002 to 2003, it jumped up. 2003 to 4 jumped up, astronomically.
Right.
And 4 to 5, the same thing. But then after 2005, it started coming back down. And so all that pent-up demand from the early 2000s, then we got into oversupply in like 2004, 5, and 6. And last year was, considerably down from the previous years. But like 2007 was down from 04, 5, and 6, but it was still up 20%, I think, from 2003.
Right.
Which was a good year.
Oh, yeah.
Except for the oversupply, we would be okay.
Right.
But we do have an oversupply, and that means it's great buying opportunities, because we've already been, the downturn actually started in like August of 05.
Of 05. Okay.
So we're already almost 3 years into a downturn.
Right.
And that means that now a lot of people are starting to feel the pain of carrying this property, so they're great buying opportunities.
Sure.
But we only have about another year left of it. And
so you see just about another year of...
another year left of that really down cycle, and then things are going to be moving up. So, I mean, I've really taken upon myself and my company to try to tell people, if they want to buy something at the beach, doesn't have to be from me.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be it can be anything, whether it's a condo, a lot, a home, a patio home, whatever it may be.
Sure.
if they're really serious about buying property at the beach, that they should be looking in 2008, because 2009, a lot of that inventory is going to start going away, and the opportunities go away. And when that happens, prices go up.
Yes.
Right now, it's a great time to buy property.
As you said, not just from Cana, but from any number of suppliers in the area. There's a lot of great real estate companies and developers in the area that I'm sure do have a both national and local business that have a supply that it's good to take a look at and look seriously in 2008.
And not just, some people see the big headlines, like national builders might be advertising something $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 off a particular home or whatever. But the small builders, small suppliers, smaller developments, resale homes, everything is held back their prices. They may not be offering a publicized $50,000 discount, for example, but their price may be held back, a good 10, 20, even 30% back from its high a couple of years ago. So they really need to kind of look between the lines and look for some good buys. But what a great buying opportunity for people coming to the beach.
And of course, just the basics of that for somebody. Obviously, you're speaking as a developer, and so you're aware of how much other developers or yourself are holding back or capable of doing. I mean, what should and I know this is a non-commercial show, but just for the interest of prospective buyers, what are some of the tips that they could use or utilize when talking to developers about ways for them to know what kind of bargains or opportunities there would be in the market? Are there some tips you'd give on the other side of the aisle to folks if they're talking to Cana or to any numbers of developers locally?
Well, the main thing is use a good realtor.
Right.
Whether you're using a realtor there on site or using your own designated buyer's realtor or whoever, but use a good realtor who has a history with the market. Somebody that's been in the business, preferably a few years, and they've kind of seen where prices were lower than higher than lower, and they'll have an understanding of the true values of the property, and do some research yourself. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. About the person's background. I'd want to be buying from a builder who's established, not a builder who just got in the business a year ago, and maybe is going to be out of the business a year from now. That type of thing. Now, there's some good new builders coming into market, don't get me wrong, but some of them have experience, but you want to make sure you're buying a quality product from a quality builder, a quality developer, somebody who's been around and is not just threw up a sign up and said, hey, I got property for sale.
Sure.
But it's a great opportunity. Just ask questions and do some research yourself.
We've had a great question-answer column. Tom Mazer, formerly with the Fortune Academy and now with Proformance Plus, and of course one of the spokesmen for the Coastal Carolinas Association of Realtors, has written a Myrtle Beach area real estate column for the Herald for the last three and a half years. A good question-answer, and I think he's driven home some of those points. In addition, recently we actually picked up a realtor, one who's been in the business just a short time, is doing a bi-monthly piece, Eddie Paul, who's with Century 21 Broadhurst, I believe, and he highlighted a couple of weeks ago just that idea we keep seeing national figures of foreclosures, and it sounds so, as you said earlier this morning, doom and gloom, but at the same time, obviously, it's just a scintilla, just a very small percentage of the actual mortgaged homes or lots or properties nationwide, but they're highlighting as if it's as the death knell of the industry.
Well, it affects us in that if somebody can't sell their home somewhere else, they can't move here as fast. But the amazing thing is that I mean, as sure as you and I are sitting here today, this morning, that there will be another 75 to 100,000 residents in Horry County in the next 10, 12 years.
You feel that way, strong about that, Randy.
That's all. You can't talk to nobody is going to say that Horry County is going to be shrinking in population. We are still growing in population. We're growing, and our roads are growing. That's why we were building these new roads. We're building new schools because people want to live here. They want to live in the South. They want to live close to the coast. The trend has been for 50 years. People have been moving to Horry County. So they're still going to be coming here, and we're going to be there. Now, some years will be 10,000 new people. Some years might be only 4,000 or 5,000 new people. but we're a growing community, so we can't stop that. We can't put up a sign on every road and say stop coming. People are going to come to Myrtle Beach. It's
Sure.
a great place to live.
Oh,
That's why you and I live here.
That's right, sure.
So they're still coming, and they will eventually eat up that excess inventory.
Right, right.
It might take a couple of years, but they will eat up that excess inventory, and then we'll be sitting around saying, boy, we need to do something else.
Better get rolling, yeah.
Yeah, we got to do something else.
How exciting, Randy. Well, and for you, obviously, we opened up with you as the president of Cana Corporation. You talked about creating Lightus in your early 20s. You later, when did you actually create the Cana Corporation? What exactly is Cana? Does that stand for anything? Is that an acronym? Or
it's not an acronym, but
it's not, yeah.
when I started over, I went through some hard times in the 80s. Tax reform was very difficult for myself and a lot of people. Of course, we learned a lot from that. You know, you learn from adversity. You don't learn from easy times. And so when we started over, I decided to start another company, called it Cana Corporation. It's named just for the wedding of Cana.
The wedding of Cana.
The wedding of Cana is where Jesus performed his first miracle.
Is that right?
And so, and I thought at that time Jesus had performed a miracle in my life, and I just wanted to honor him with the name of the company. And that's kind of what we do. We feel like that we turn water to wine, like in Cana is where Jesus turned water to wine. We feel like we take something that's kind of a blank wall. It's like an artist. You take a blank wall and we actually create properties. So we are, whether it's building a house or whether it's taking a piece of land and designing a subdivision and deciding what's the best use of that land for that subdivision, we feel like we turn a raw piece of land into something beautiful where people want to live, and that's what
wonderful.
We do.
Randy, that must be a great feeling. Yeah. I visited your site early this morning. Cana sells lots or new homes at myrtlebeach.com. Some really good-looking developments that you've been involved in since creating the company in the, I guess, in the late 80s. So I think you all are celebrating, is it 20 years this year?
Yeah, we 20-year anniversary here. We started in 1988,
right.
And we're still around kicking. We're
Yeah.
you know, and we've got a good number of developments around the county right now.
Right. I think I saw there's another 20-year anniversary for you and your wife, y'all's involvement in is it the Western Tour for boys and girls?
The Western Tour for boys and girls. Yeah, that's one of my passions. It's a bus trip for teenagers. It's a bus trip in the summertime, mainly junior high age kids, boys and girls, that my uncle, Randy and Ernestine Gravely in Lake City, along with R.L. and Dot Cockfield from Lake City, started the Western Tour for Boys and Girls in 1957.
Is that right?
And,
just celebrated 50 years last year.
50-year anniversary trip last year.
Wow. We
had an exciting trip, and we take, they used to take 2 bus loads, a bus load of boys and a bus load of girls. And then when I started going 20 years ago, my wife and I went 20 years ago with my uncle. He asked us to go and help him with the tour. And we took a few weeks off in the summer and did that. And we took our children with us, and who were young at the time. And of course, I went when I was 13, 14 years old, back growing up in Marion. I went on the tour with my uncle. But we used to take 2 bus loads, a bus load of boys and a bus load of girls, and if they were good after a few days, we said we'd let them ride together if they behaved. But now we just take 1 bus load.
And mix them up.
And,
one side of the aisle, the other side.
Well, if we have to.
Y'all are good chaperones, I'm sure.
But we enjoy it, and we have some great folks that have helped us over the years. Frank and Harriet Clark have helped us for a number of years. And it's a neat trip. We take a busload of kids out west.
Are they all from the Myrtle Beach area?
They're from all over, mainly the PD.
Oh, great! Our viewing area. Wonderful.
We have kids going a lot from Florence this year, but over the years, a number of kids from Sherrill, Marion, Mullins, Florence, Lake City, Hartsville. We have some come from Columbia and Greenville in that area, but mostly from the PD area.
That's great. That is wonderful. And you suspect, obviously we've been using your crystal ball for real estate, the future of the Western Tour, it's going to be around for a long time.
Well, that's hard to say. To be the interesting thing, the reason we take 1 busload instead of 2 now is that kids today, they have so many choices of things to do. They have soccer camps, cheerleading camps, things that didn't exist 20 years ago. But we still enjoy it. I think it's very different. It's a very unique experience. It's a time for them to see the country, to get an idea of a whole different perspective on the world, you might say.
And the Western Tour is exactly that, literally getting on a bus and traveling across, what, to California? I think I've seen
Usually we go out west
right.
on a couple of trips. We do an eastern trip, which we're doing this summer.
Right.
We go for 2 or 3 weeks.
How exciting, Randy, that you're capable of, clearly you've got a great crew here locally that enable you to get out of the office for 2 to 3 weeks straight to go on a bus.
Yeah, they call me on the phone every now and then, as you can imagine. But it's a need, and it's helpful to me because it's something totally different. You get a different perspective. I just love working with young people.
Sure. Do you have speaking of young people, family here in the business with you? Folks setting the stage for them to take over?
Well, yes. I have 4 children. My wife and I have 4 children. My
Right.
wife, Chris, and we have 2 grown boys, Jacob and Stephen Stackley, who live in Charleston
Right.
and are working down there. And then we have a daughter who's in college at University of South Carolina, Chrissy, and my son Weston is working with me at Cana Corporation. So he's just getting his feet wet. He's doing everything from cutting the grass to washing windows.
Right.
And every now and then we let him dress up and pretend he's in the real estate development business.
I love it.
as well.
I love it. Since you're not in the cotton business, he's happy to stay involved.
Oh, he's happy. He's happier to be in this business. I think he's happier than he would be in the cotton business too.
Right. How exciting! Of course, we just got a couple of minutes, Randy. You've been spending a lot of time with your co-chair, with Penny Bowling, I believe, working hard on the capital campaign for, is it the Coastal Carolina YMCA or the Grand Strand YMCA?
Well, we're working on the Grand Strand portion of it. Of course, we're building a building in Georgetown, as well as here in Myrtle Beach. And in Myrtle Beach, Penny and I are working on that. We are hoping to get started in another month or 2. As you well know, we're hoping to break ground very shortly. And we're still looking for donations to the capital campaign. They're still naming opportunities to name a room. But it's a pretty exciting time for the YMCA, and it's time for the YMCA to be here in Myrtle Beach.
If a viewer was interested in helping out with the campaign, the capital campaign there, what's the best way to support it? Call in Y or call in your office?
Call the Y.
Okay.
It's 449-9622.
Great,
it's
good.
449 YMCA.
The easy to remember, 449 YMCA. That's right.
And it's the best thing, and call up there and say, hey, how can I help? And we'll send you some materials. I mean, obviously anybody can contact me at Cana Corporation.
Good.
Or Penny Bowling at Century 21 Bowling. And we're excited to be a part of this. It's a great time. It's great for the community.
Absolutely. There's also a lot of focus on Habitat for Humanity. You all have a big piece coming up this summer, I believe.
This summer is going to be the Builders Blitz, where they're going to build 6 houses in 1 week. My partner and I, Derek Blanton, and myself, Derek Blanton Construction. He's a partner of mine in a number of ventures, and Derek and I have worked to get 7 lots ready. So we've got 1 extra lot, but they'll be able to build on later. But this summer they're going to build 6 houses, 6 different builders coming in and lining up, start on Monday and finish on Saturday. And the families will all move in on Saturday this summer in June. I can't remember the exact dates, but it's in one of the first weeks in June, and people need to be aware of that. It's a really great thing, and Habitat's a great program.
Oh yeah, we had Olivia Guerin, is it? Whoever runs the Habitat just recently there at. It's not Olivia Guerin, it's someone else.
Olivia Guerin with the United Way.
A mental block
and,
there.
Gail Olive.
Gail Olive, thank you. Was
Habitat.
just with us at Grassy Granite over on 544 recently, highlighting what you all are doing and even trying to recruit more builders at that time. So.
Yeah, and they want to do it like every couple of years. So, and builders don't realize how they really can do this. And Derek was a part of it last time, and he's going to be building a house this time. And, and there are a lot more builders that hopefully will get involved in the coming years.
We talked about your crystal ball, obviously thinking about the market going forward. If you had a minute to summarize where you see the Myrtle Beach market in the next few years, Randy, what do you see as the real trend?
Well, a good thing that comes out of a slow time is people start thinking more about what they really want, and developers and builders start thinking about how to answer that need. So more creativity comes out of slow times. You know, when it's so busy, everybody's just kind of producing things to answer the need. But now you start thinking about, what do we really need in Myrtle Beach, or what do I really want in Myrtle Beach? What do I really want to come to? How do I want to live? So we start getting new designs on everything from houses, condos, subdivisions. Everybody starts thinking more creatively about, well, wait a minute, I don't want to just buy a house. I want to buy a house that suits my needs.
House.
And so I see a lot more creativity coming out in the future. I think in the next few years you'll start seeing some more exciting developments. I think we're already starting to see some of it. I think things like Market Commons and even like North Beach Plantation are kind of more unique projects that come out of a tougher time and say, well, we've got to do a little bit better. We've got to do a little bit more what people really want. We'll see more green building coming in the future years and more energy efficiency. But I think it's going to be an exciting time for Myrtle Beach in the next 5 years. You'll see some really neat products coming out.
I think you're right on. That's great, Randy. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. Sorry we've run out of time.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Randy Wallace, the president of Cana Corporation. We spent 30 minutes talking about real estate trends, about cycles, about creativity, even about a bus trip across the country. But the only phone number he threw out was 449-YMCA. Take the time to pick up the phone. Give them a call. They need help wrapping up the capital campaign. You can make a difference. Give them a call, 843-449-YMCA. Give them a help. Randy Wallace, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.